Alright guys, so today I'm just gonna explain the urinary bladder, the parts, surfaces and borders with the help of the small pyramidal shaped structure what I've made with the piece of paper. So this would be the apex and this is the base of the pyramid. Okay, so I'm going to put it this way. This would be the anterior part and this would be the posterior part. Alright, so here would be the pubic symphysis. This is the area where you get to see the pubic symphysis. So let's talk about the borders and the surfaces. Okay, so here we'll start with the apex of the bladder. This would be the base of the bladder. Okay, the base is otherwise called as the posterior surface. So this part is otherwise called as the posterior surface. Apex is here facing anteriorly. Okay, now let's talk about the surfaces and borders. So here, this part, what we see here, this is the anterior border. Okay, so I'm going to put the anterior border facing forwards like this. This is the anterior border, and here on either side we have the lateral border. So these are the lateral borders. Okay, so anterior border again and the two lateral borders you see here, and this would be the posterior border. Okay, these ones we don't consider this as a border because this is more or less rounded. It would be more or less rounded. In here I've just made it little short, but then it is rounded. Okay, so we have anterior border here, two lateral border and one posterior border. Okay, now let's talk about the surfaces. This surface what we see here, this is a superior surface. Okay, while this surface between the anterior border, on either side of the anterior border, these two surfaces, we call it as the anterolateral surface because they are seen on the lateral aspect and related anteriorly. So anterolateral. Okay, and this one, as we mentioned before, this is the posterior or the base, right? So posterior surface. So what are the surfaces what we have? Superior surface, two anterolateral surface and one posterior surface. Okay, now what I'm holding on to is the neck of the urinary bladder. So this part where my thumb and the forefinger is, that's on the neck. So this neck would be this area, so where the urethra begins. So the urethra would begin at this point, okay. And now if you look at the posterior border, or the posterior surface, so if I'm going to put these two things here like that, so that would represent the seminal vesicle. So this area would be the seminal vesicle here. This would be the seminal vesicle. Okay, right?